Okay,
recording.
I'm recording. Mm-hmm. So start whenever.
I was getting my starting ready. I was breathing,
Oh, okay.
Mr. Interrupter.
Okay, like, I'm sorry I interrupted you breathing.
Okay, hold on. Welcome, everybody, to our show today.
I'm Laz, the Jolly Boy, and I'm in China.
And I'm Cody, the less jolly boy. And I'm in America. And we're not across the pond, but across the other
The
pond.
other pond. The show where we take test tube babies and we put them in larger vessels so that they can grow larger and healthier.
It's a very important issue surrounding today's test tube
Yeah,
babies.
yeah.
They don't have enough. They don't have big enough
Exactly.
test tubes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because like if you think about it, if you grow a baby in a test tube, they're only going to grow the size of the test tube, right? So
Yeah,
that's the
that
thing.
sounds right.
I don't think everyone wants like a Thumbelina baby. You know, everyone wants to get like a nice, healthy, juicy baby. You know, so they can they can just so they can have a happy, delicate family.
I'm gonna.
You know.
Okay, yeah. I don't know enough science about test tube babies to know whether you're right or wrong on this, but I'm gonna lean towards this is the incorrect way to raise a test tube baby.
This is incorrect. I'm just bullshitting here. I have no idea how to make a test tube baby. In my mind though, I almost see it as like, what is it? Just kind of what there's something like, you know, like those square watermelons.
Where you grow them in like a glass. I mean, yeah, you can only grow as big as the container, so they must like change containers.
Yeah, see, so that's the thing. Like, when I think of test tube babies, I think of you put the sperm and you put the vagina egg into the test tube, and then it grows. But then, like, it only grows to, because there's such a limited space, it'll only grow to the size of the test tube. So then, if you make the baby grow up in the test tube, then you'll be kind of like a Thumbelina little baby, kind of like Anna Reddy from that one movie. You know, and then you can't have a delicate, juicy family.
Anyway,
you'll have a square watermelon baby. You know.
Are you telling me that you wouldn't want a square watermelon? I mean, you wouldn't want a square watermelon baby, but a square watermelon sounds pretty neat. That sounds easy to cut.
It does. Yeah, I mean, it sounds very easy to Tetris. You know, like it wouldn't be like the water, because like round. Can you imagine trying to play Tetris with round objects like that? That just can't work. Like, how are you supposed to do that? That's gonna just turn into Plinko really soon. You know?
Yeah, ploop, ploop,
I think
ploop. That's the sound that I get when I hear Plinko.
Ploop 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 ploop. Yes, ploop 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 ploop.
Anyway, what are we talking about today, Les? What did you do last week?
Well, last week
was the traveling that bad? How do you? So I'm guessing you didn't take a plane or anything, right?
No. Well, we took in China, like there was like a vast network of trains. You know, there's like three main types of trains. I'll say, like, there's the regular old train, like we over here we call it 绿皮车. And 绿皮车 literally means green skin car. And it's like the original train, like the shitty train. It's I mean, like, the interior is not super shitty. It's really that no one enforces like any of the rules on this train, like you know, and on trains you're not supposed to smoke or anything, but like people don't give a shit on the 绿皮车. Like, everyone just smokes, you know, and
that's
it's
where the
pretty much like
comes
riding.
From. I mean, how can you have a smokestack on the train without a bunch of smokers?
Yeah, maybe we've been tricked to think that it was a cool train thing, And actually, it's just a whole bunch of chain smokers like venting off their secondhand smoke into the environment. Yeah, for any, what's up?
Before we get too far, I just want to say that we're talking about traveling today. That's the
So there's three main subjects: holidays, traveling, and incidental family from hooking up with your partner. I mean, well, actually, there's a better way to phrase that, but you know what I'm saying.
Being in a relationship with somebody else, so you have extra family members now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I meant, but I made it sound like sex. Yeah. But like, what was the thing? Oh yeah. So and when with the traveling, more like holiday traveling, and in China, this is a huge thing, especially now. It's like we're still going on with the Chinese New Year over here, and like it's like a whole 1 week or 2 week ordeal. And I say ordeal now because a lot of people don't really enjoy the Chinese New Year like they did. Like Fang Fang tells me about this, my girlfriend, and my friends, and it's a really kind of an ordeal now. Especially there's this thing called Chun Yun. And Chun Yun, so like in America, what we call Chinese New Year, the Chinese New Year, but over here it's actually called like the Spring Festival.
Huh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's called Chunjie, and Chun means spring, and Jie is like holiday, Chunjie. And so like, because there's so many people from that are originally from villages, but they have immigrated to the cities to find work, every time it comes to the Spring Festival, like everyone in China has to like go back to their hometown, and it creates a gigantic mess.
That sounds like a lot of people going to trains. I mean, trains. How many people can be on one train?
I mean, I don't know. But let me think. So one train car over here, if you're taking the dongche, which is it's better than that yupi-che, like the green skin car, but it's worse than like the speed rail. But it's still comparable to the speed rail. Actually, I really like it. But like one car on that is about, let's see, there's 5 seats in an aisle, and there's about maybe 16 aisles in one car. So that's already like 80, right? That's
right.
80 people, one car. And then altogether there's about 16 cars. What is that? Like maybe around 1,000 people for every train. But then also you have different stops along the way. But I mean, then think about how many people there are in China. Oh my God. It's the most popular country in the world.
I think that is not enough people on a train for it to be any kind of efficient method of transportation.
Yeah. So, like it's really nice though, actually. Like you would think that the most populated country on the earth taking a train, any kind of train over here would be a nightmare, but it's actually really nice. Like when you actually get on the train, save for all the screaming children, but like,
well, yeah, of course,
you get that pretty much anywhere.
Kids are like, they're a necessity when it comes to holiday traveling.
Yeah, exactly.
They're part of the checklist.
But you know what? In China, it's a little different because people don't really like discipline their kids as much as we do in America. Like in America, like if you're in a restaurant or if you're on the train or something and your kid is running up and down the aisle, you'll probably say, "Oh, don't do that," like you'll sit down and behave or something, But in China, it's just like, oh, the parents don't even give a shit. They're just like, run around, whatever. You're a kid, Which in the beginning, yeah, like that was my reaction in the beginning. But you get used to it. It's just like it's the way parenting is very different in China, and it's got its goods and bads, just like in America.
Yeah, I mean,
but anyway, like. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's I don't want to get into parenting because I'm not a parent, so but I don't know
Yeah,
if there's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
perfect
So
parenting method.
yeah, I don't know. I have my theories and stuff too, but at the same time, like I'm not a parent either. But anyways, like the so in China for trains, you pretty much have the 绿皮车, the 动车, and then 高铁. And 动车is like I said, the one right behind it, a little worse than speed rail, but then the 高铁 is speed rail. And like pretty much, I think the speed rail and the 动车 is like both pretty much the same. 动车 is a little slower, but not that much slower. But it's actually really nice. It's just getting on the train sometimes it's the hassle because
Right. I mean,
I'll send you some pictures of it. Like, oh my god, there's so many people, and it's not even the worst day for it. Like Fanfan was telling me, we were actually getting there earlier than most people do. And once all the migrant workers get off for the holiday, that's when it becomes a hectic, just clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like an actual, like in Chinese, there's this expression, 人山人海, and it's people mountain, people sea, pretty much. That's what it directly translates as.
And that's just like a big mass of people.
Just, oh my god. And like I said, that's not even like the worst time to go to we were like, because we had to go through two of the biggest train stations in all of China. Well, two of the most used, which is in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Like those are two of the biggest cities in China, and oh my god, it was crazy. But it's at this point I can handle it. I'm used to being in giant crowds of people and. You hit into each other, but you don't even like acknowledge it anymore. You just subconsciously push it away. It's like you don't even register that you just bumped into a person. That's what it's like in China.
They're just an obstacle.
Like, well, it's not even. It kind of like now it's almost like. You get to a point where you're surrounded with people all the time that you just see people more as objects. Unless you start interacting with
all I'm picturing is just being in a big mosh pit.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much. Well, but it's not as violent as a mosh pit.
Right, not as violent as a mosh pit. More like just being in the C crowd, like the part of the crowd that's not like running into each other, but just is like so close to each other that sweat is rubbing off onto you.
Well, not. Sometimes, like some people have a funk, just like any other country, just everyone, there's some people that have funks, but it's, you get used to it, like, I remember in America seeing all these crowds. I would have been like, what is it? Like, I would have been, like, totally, like, put off by it before when I was in America. But now it's like, if I see a giant crowd of people, I won't say, oh, let's forget about it. Let's just do it some other day. Like, I'll still go and get in line, or, like, still go on the train or something. Because it's like, I don't know, it's just being in China and especially going to other places during the Chinese New Year has really upped my tolerance towards giant crowds of people,
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
But yeah, so like, anyway, that's called Chun Yun. And Chun, like I said before, it means spring, and Yun means like to transport, usually mean like transporting supplies or something. But like, it's pretty much spring transportation. I don't know. There's probably a better English term for it, but I don't know how to say it in English. So, but anyway, like, this was the first time that I really felt the impact of Chun Yun. And we had to go down to Guangdong, Like, if you don't know where Guangdong is, it's where Hong Kong is. You know, pretty much
really?
Canton. Where, yeah. Guangdong is Canton. You know, the province, and that's where they speak Cantonese. So, like, we had to go down there. Like, actually, that area, Guangzhou, in Hong Kong, Macau. That area, that's where I was staying. Like, and if you know where Macau is, it's like to the left of Hong Kong. And then where I was staying was in a place called Zhongshan. So it's like 2 cities up from Macau. And that place is called the Pearl River Delta. And actually what I've heard is that it's the most densely populated area in the world. Which
wow.
I've heard this, but the thing is, I don't think that's true, because I've heard Bangladesh is even more densely populated, but it's still super. Oh, actually, it's the most populated place in the world, but not necessarily the most densely populated. But there are a lot of people. There's a lot of people there, especially if you're talking about Hong Kong. Hong Kong is super populated. But yeah, like, so I was staying in that place and I kind of went around there, and I stayed with my, my girlfriend's family for maybe a week or so. And we also went around to visit some of her friends and whatnot. And, you know, I got to use my Cantonese.
Yeah, that's good.
But, you know, like, I'll talk about that more. 'Cause like in a little bit, 'cause I also want you to say kind of what you've done, like, for, you know, maybe the Christmas holiday or whatever you've been doing, you know, recently. Traveling.
My traveling stories are going to be older stories, but I have traveling stories. I've done quite a bit of traveling in my day.
Oh, yeah. I know you've talked to me a lot about that kind of stuff, like being born in Norway, like, and just hopping around countries, like, with being in your parent. Well, both of your parents are in the military, right?
No, just my dad was, but I mean, my mom went with us everywhere, so kind of may as well have been both in the military.
Okay. All right. But, you know, like, what kind of traveling have you done recently?
Let's see. Well, I mean, my last traveling has been, I guess every other year now we go down to Ashley's parents' place in Florida, and we've actually gotten, I'd say, a lot better at traveling down there now, because there's a smaller airline that flies out of the O'Fallon area, or I guess the Shiloh area that's near Scott Air Force Base. It flies out of there. It's called Allegiant, and you can get a lot cheaper flights out of there. And you sit in these little tiny, like, I swear they're like 40-person planes, like.
Oh God!
And it's like a 1-gate airport. Like, only one plane leaves. So you go and you go through security, and it's like, yep, are you on this flight today? Yeah, that's the only one. So.
Wait, is that like, what is that airport called? Is it the Spirit of St. Louis?
No.
There's one that I've heard that's called the Spirit of St. Louis or something like that.
It's not that one. I have heard of that airport, though, but we don't fly out of that one. We fly out of it's the Belleville Airport. That's what it is. But yeah, the Spirit of St. Louis is over there by Boeing, I think. I don't know. Somebody can probably correct me on that. But yeah, so
where were you going in Florida?
We go down to Mossy Head, which is such a small town that it doesn't actually have a zip code. It uses the zip code for... damn it. It uses another city. Shit, I'm really mad I can't remember what that city is. But it's it's in the Panhandle. It's by Panama City Beach and Destin, are bigger name cities that are over there.
So you're in the more south part of Florida. Like, you've heard this expression, the more north you go in Florida, the more south you are.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's like 30 minutes away from Alabama. And Ashley's parents have a really nice house over there that's very isolated, I would say, which is very nice for vacation-wise. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I like isolated places.
But yeah,
too.
it's very different to travel at an airport like that, where it's like you show
Mm,
up like an hour before the flight, maybe. There's like 30
mm,
people total.
mm. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then you just get on the plane, and then they're like, okay, we're going to be there in like an hour and a half. And then they have to, like, I feel like they have to, if too many people are seated on one side of the plane, they have to move your seats. I feel like it's one of those planes
Uh-huh.
where it like matters how much weight distribution the passengers are taking up.
Oh, okay. So wait, how much does that plane cost?
It's like $80 a ticket, maybe, and like
Oh, dude,
not it's like
that's good.
non-peak times, like because they of course if you're gonna fly over like Valentine's Day, it's gonna be like $300 or
Uh,
something.
oh, okay.
So
I
holiday
understand.
pricing
Like,
always gouges you. Always buy early.
yeah. That's kind of what we have to do, especially over here. During Chunyun. Like we just went from a super mass of people to like 30 people on one plane, right?
Yeah,
like see, like over here it's like, especially during Chunyun, like if you don't get tickets, like sometimes even a month before, you might be out of luck the day that you actually need to go
that's
to,
crazy. Like,
so like,
I've never bought train
mm,
tickets, so I don't know how far in advance I would have ever bought train tickets. But I feel like it's not a month. Like,
mm. Yeah, it's much. I mean, there's so many people in China. It's the like I said, most popular country in the world. But which in the next few years it'll be India, because in China they're having a problem with having too many old people, kind of like Japan is,
yeah,
and not having enough young people to support the
yeah, the
economy.
population growth
But
anymore.
yeah, because of the one child policy,
Uh-huh.
that's why they took out they invalidated the one child policy. Now they have the 2-child policy, so
Yep.
you can have 2 children.
Yeah, because I
But
mean,
like
even in
anyway,
America
yeah,
now, it's statistically like we're not even giving enough birth for replacement. Like we're seeing a dip.
yeah.
We're gonna see a dip in world population in the next couple of years, I think.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's because like our attitudes towards family and stuff are much different now all across the world. Like nobody wants to start a family anymore because we're just too fucking busy with our lives, and we don't want to deal with having children.
Yeah, for sure. And there's just
Like,
so much more happening every day. Like,
uh,
I mean, like think back, like even like 50 years, like right after the war, all you knew
uh,
was happening really was like maybe in your country, basically. Like,
mm,
and then really
mm.
just what would like you probably didn't like people probably didn't think about how populated the Eastern world was from our perspective over here. It was just like, well, we should have kids. What else are we gonna do?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I see. I mean, that's the baby boomer generation, right?
Yeah,
Like right after the war. And but nowadays it's like nobody, like, it just seems to me that everyone I meet doesn't want to have kids. And it's the same here in a lot of, I don't know, like it's not the same in China. I think like it's still kind of like there are a lot of people want to have kids still, I think, in China. It's just like, but in America, it's much different. Like, there's a few things in China in America that's happening that I think affects the birth rate. It's like, first of all, there's like nobody wants to have kids, like I said before. Second of all, most people will, I mean, with birth control now, like, and people getting more knowledgeable about birth control, like, people are able to control how many kids they want, and
yeah,
when they want them.
absolutely. You don't just have like, whoops, that's our
Mm.
fifth kid.
Yeah, which actually, biologically, that's important to accidentally have babies, if you think about it. Because, like, when do we usually start having, like, sexual feelings, it's usually around adolescence, right? And adolescents' brains aren't developed, like the frontal cortex isn't developed enough. So, when we're adolescents, we tend to just do things on impulse, but that's actually good for the species, because if you do things on impulse, you just kind of accidentally have babies,
Yep,
and that's good for the species as a whole.
Humanity continues.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that maybe like nature designed us that way, to accidentally have babies. But like there's another thing that's I think is contributing to the decline of population throughout the world is that, well, at least in America, let me say that, is how we're thinking about dating now, and I think I've talked about this before, is just like guys and girls, it's becoming harder and harder to get in a relationship because or I don't know, it just seems like guys now, because there's this whole movement of destroying the patriarchy and all these super masculine things, that now a lot of guys don't know how to interact with girls. And I think that's also kind of
most of the
contributing.
I'd say most of the rules are kind of old.
Well, see, but then the other thing is, in reality, a lot of girls like when a guy can make decisions and be a man and stuff. But then at the same time, society is telling them you don't want to have a macho man because they're abusive and all this blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a problem. But at the same time, a lot of it's still biologically, we still want to abide by those natural tendencies, but at the same time, society is telling us a different story, and now we're just kind of caught between these two things. I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I think the vast majority of girls want to have a man's man, and a man wants a woman's woman. So it's I think right now we're trying to figure out what we want to do with this now. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, but at the same time, we don't know what we can do with it now, And I think this really deviates from our topic today.
Yeah, we are way off course. I was going to pull us back and say, you know what the best form of birth control is? Seeing other people travel with children. It makes me not want to have kids. God, that sounds like a terrible time.
Yeah, it also makes, when going to being with my girlfriend's family for about a week and seeing her brother's kid, he's fun and all. It's just sometimes it's actually kind of sad because he doesn't really have any friends over there because they just moved over there.
Oh yeah, and that's always hard on a kid.
Yeah, you know this because you've been all over the world,
Yeah,
and having to make new friends all the time, right?
The first couple of times it's really hard, and then you just kind of go and sit next to somebody and you're like, we're friends now. This is just how it is.
Yeah, which actually that's how kids actually make friends,
Yeah, absolutely. You just go and you're like when I moved to Illinois to go to college, I was sitting next to Peter, and he was like, hey, do you need some paper? Because I had forgotten everything. And I was like, we're friends now. This is it. You talked to me, and now we're friends.
Yeah, see, that's awesome, because that's how I kind of make friends now, too. It's just I just start talking to the person next to me, and if we, hit it off, we're friends. That's pretty much what I think. I think traveling around the world, you start to get that kind of mentality, right?
Yeah,
it's just whoever's around, and
we're social creatures. It's very difficult to be isolated in a world.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm actually Well, let me think. What did I want to say? Like, I felt like I had something to say, and then it just kind of disappeared into the ether.
It happens.
Yeah, But let me see. So, let me ask you this question, because we're talking about family and traveling. Like, how was your experience with Ashley's family? Do you get along with her parents? And
yeah, I love Ashley's
her,
parents. They're super awesome and helpful and fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to me how much Ashley is like her parents. And I was gonna ask
Really?
you, how much is Feng Feng like her parents?
Well, the thing is, like, actually, Fan Fang's mom passed away, I think 5 or 6 years ago from ovarian cancer.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that has created a big problem in our family, actually.
Yeah,
like now I think her dad has been like super depressed for the last, I don't know how many years. And her whole family is a clusterfuck right now. Like, actually, when we were over there, they got into a huge fight with everyone. Everyone was fighting with everyone, and me and her brother's kid were just kind of caught in the middle, just being like, "Let's go play video games in the other room."
Yep. I have no horse in this race. I'm gonna take my leave.
Yeah.
Hearing about Ashley's extended family kind of goes like that as well. There's some characters is the word I'm going to use. It's so different because Ashley's parents really have it together. I think like they've got a house, they've got the job, they like know what they're doing, and then when you hear about the rest of the like external side, it's like it's an anomaly in the system. It's like like in my brain most of the time. Even in my family, because like my mom's side, it's all very different depending on which aunt or uncle you pick. You're like, okay, well these ones definitely have it together, but this one a little bit, maybe not. Like, what happened there?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how families can be so different.
Yeah, in my family, it's kind of like that too. Like, with Fan Fang's family, I don't know. Like right now, her family is just kind of a huge mess. Like, let me think. Like her dad pretty much stays at home and does nothing but drink and yell at her brother's kid, and smokes too. Yeah, he doesn't really do much. I mean, he talks to the guy next door sometimes, and goes out. He runs sometimes, but like he doesn't really have any ambitions in life anymore, and it's kind of sad. Like, it's hard because also, in China there's the lost generation. Have you heard of this before?
You've told me this before, that it's like the you'd have to describe it to me again, but I know what you're talking about. You've said it before, that it's these people that are like, kind of on the wayside.
Well, before, kind of China was kind of caught in all these revolutions and whatnot, and it kind of made everything a little bit of a mess for a while. And then when after that was all done, all of a sudden everything just like took off after 改革开放. 改革开放 is like, because before China was like sealed off from the rest of the world and saying we don't want things from other countries. And then Deng Xiaoping, like one of the chairmen before, I think like two chairmen after Mao, he decided, okay, well, everything's kind of going to shit right now. We should open the country up to the world. And so that's what 改革开放is like opening up to the world. And so like the generation that kind of grew up in the turmoil that happened before, all the chaos, like it was pretty much anarchy, really. Like you just wanted to survive, and like with Fan Fan's dad, Fan Fan's dad, he actually, and they're both of them, like dad and mom, kind of went starving a lot. And actually her dad before had to survive on like bark and leaves.
Dang, that's
and that
insane.
that kind of caused him stomach problems,
Well,
and
that sounds about right.
Coming out of that kind of like chaos, and then all of a sudden, like, fast forwarding today with all this technology, China is super like advanced now, and it's like you have everyone with smartphones, and all these people, old folks that came out of that generation, they can't keep up with it. And even like my like Fanfan's dad, like, he doesn't use a smartphone, or he can't even use any of this technology. He refuses to use it, And now he still uses this old bulky phone, to call people, and it's like it's hard, like, I understand, like, trying to keep up with things, it's hard, but at the same time, you have to try to keep up, like, you can't just, I don't know, I'm not familiar with the situation, like, I'm not him, so I don't know how hard it actually is, but it's just like unimaginable how you would be able to keep up with everything like that, because China, it's like jumped from that.
Oh yeah, they moved
to
so
now.
fast.
That's super quick. So it's like I understand why so many old folks can't keep up with it in one sense, but in another sense, I don't know how hard it is. Like, if there's a lot of young people that say, why can't you just understand this? But it's the same thing kind of like with me trying to teach Fang Fang how to play Mario Party 5, like,
that's a good analogy.
She didn't grow up with video games, so like some of the things that for us are like the most natural, like, for instance, how do you move your character?
You move the analog
it's
stick.
like, for us, it's you just move. Some people, you might not even say move the analog stick. You just say just move.
Yeah, because
but then you don't even think about.
Yeah, and I think that comes from like when you grow up with it, you can very easily just put yourself in the game. Like, you grab a controller and you're like, this is me now. Like, I'm the thing in the game. It's kind of like driving, where like you don't say I'm making the car turn left. You just say I'm turning left.
Yeah, exactly. There's an agency in video games that's just like unprecedented. Yeah. Like, for instance, I remember when I was a kid, I had this kind of like consciousness of that weird duality, or not even the duality, like how I make myself that character. I remember when I was playing Super Smash Bros. One day, I asked myself, why do I say ouch when someone hits me in the game?
Because it makes you play better.
It's such a weird thing. It puzzled me for a while. I had kind of like an existential crisis when I was like 8. I was just like, why, when I get hit with a hammer by that electric mouse in a video game that's obviously not reality, why do I say ouch? But I mean, it just shows you how much agency you actually have in video games. And so when you're trying to explain that to someone that's never played video games, you have to kind of deconstruct that kind of structure of agency, that kind of selflessness, that invisible barrier between yourself and that character. And so like trying to explain to her how to move, it almost kind of infuriated me, because it was just like, you just move, goddammit. But then like I had to think about it, like it's hard, because like if you've never touched something before, kind of like, for me, like when I was a kid, I never played sports. So once we went to PE and people are like throwing balls really well, I was just like, how do you throw? And then people were like, just fucking throw it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the same thing with her in yoga. Like, I remember her and her teacher before, they would always say, now naturally put your legs down. It's like, how do I naturally put my legs down? Right now, my legs are naturally kind of curling up like a dead spider, you know?
Yeah, like this is unnatural for me. That's kind of the disconnect there, is when something is natural to somebody else. Like I feel like I'm a terrible teacher because if I were to teach anybody, because my brain doesn't, I can't tell you how I do something. I just do it. Like,
yeah, you know,
whenever anybody mentions like, can you teach me how to play guitar or anything, I'm like, I don't feel like I took steps to learn guitar. I just picked it up and I was like, I want to play this song, and then I looked up how to play the song, and my hands just do that.
Yeah, you know, see, that's the thing. It's like once you get to a certain level with something, everything becomes subconscious. So it's like you have to like deconstruct that whole learning process, you know, after you've already learned it. And it's like you might have not even been conscious of what you were doing to learn, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, like you know, so that makes it hard for, like, going back to the subject of like old folks trying to learn these new things. It's like young folks it's like so natural to them.
Yeah, to dive in and learn something.
That when old folks try to ask questions about these things, they just get angry because it's just like, it's like moving your hand, you know? Why do you ask how to move your fingers? You just move your fucking goddamn fingers, goddammit, you know?
I found this interesting trait among the older generation, honestly, that they pick a technology and then they stop at it. Like, I've seen people with Palm Pilots, so you're like, this is where I stopped. This is where technology was good enough for me. Don't want to learn anything else. Everything else, too much. This is good.
I think it really has to do with like learning culture. Like people in all cultures right now, I think. I'm not really sure, actually. All I know is in America and China, it's both very similar. A lot of people, but it's better in China, I think, actually. Like in America, pretty much most adults think once you get out of college, you're done with learning.
Uh-huh.
Do you agree with that? Like it seems to me a lot of adults in America are like that.
Yeah, I can see that that feeling among people for sure.
So like it's just you know, like I've never when I was a kid all up to now, I've never seen my dad read a book, except I only saw him read a book once, and it was like some thick novel that had a gold lion on it, and I have no idea what it was. I just remember that image in my mind. And I remember him being on the floor watching, like reading that book, and then he just quit after like a week. And then that's the only time that I've ever seen my dad actually reading something, you know, that wasn't like a manual or something. You know, like, but my mom, because she's a teacher and she wants to keep learning her, like getting better in her trade. Like it's like I've seen her read lots of books, you know. But you know, for the vast majority of people in America, it's just like you're done with school, you're done with learning. But that's very far from the truth, you know. You need to keep learning in order to keep up with society.
Yeah, every new piece of technology you have to like. And I feel like there's this gap in technology that happened where there was a point where you kind of had to understand the underlying technology to use it. And then there's a point where now technology is almost too easy to use, where when something breaks, nobody knows how to fix it at all without being like, I need to call
that problem too.
the tech support. Like, there's no solution to this. It's like, there's always a solution to it. You can kind of get the underlying mechanic of it and figure it out. And 90% of the time, it's just turning it off and on again and understanding that something probably got stuck on the back end of it and it just doesn't know what to do. Like, sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've learned. Like, my basic IT knowledge is just turn it off and on, and then Google it to see if there's an immediate fix to the problem. Yeah, and then if that doesn't help, just check out customer service. You know, like And I think in the future, it'd be super important for everyone to learn coding, to a certain extent, like coding and electronic technologies, just because nowadays everything around you is a computer, so
you
might as well learn.
Your fridge might be a computer.
Yeah, nowadays, like there's some places where you can say, like, please turn down the temperature in the refrigerator to 0 Kelvin, like, and then the refrigerator would be like, oh, okay, master. Now today you have 4 appointments to go to the vet today. Would you like to buy a sandwich later? Like nowadays, like you could start getting shit like that. I don't know. Like I'm just obviously saying bullshit, but like like it's getting to this point where I think it's important to learn about our world. Instead of being like, the TV's broken. Well, why don't we hit it to see if it
That
works.
used to work with old CRTs, damn it.
Yeah, but now it doesn't really work.
No,
actually, that can break it. It can break it even more.
Did you
now.
move really far away from your mic?
Oh, a little bit. But what was I gonna? But I feel like we got off topic a lot again.
Yes. Yeah, we're way off topic.
Yeah.
What's our?
But like.
What was our third topic? Yeah. Holidays.
Holidays, traveling, and family.
That's right.
Like I was talking about that.
How much is Fong Fong like her dad then? I'm guessing not at all. From what you're telling me, so she's like nothing like him.
Well, there's a lot with in the beginning. She's very. What is the word? Like her dad is very impatient, and Fong Fong can also be impatient in certain things. And before, she was actually very ununderstanding of other people. Like, and misunderstanding, I should say. I made a oopsie there. But like, what's the thing is, like, her dad and her whole family does this thing. It's like, they don't know how to control the tone of their voice.
Oh, they're me.
They all have this problem. They like, if they're talking to you if you like are in the other room and you listen to them talk, it's like if you don't understand the language they're speaking, they don't speak Mandarin, they speak
Chibanese.
I mean, they also speak Mandarin, but they speak Chirbanese,
Chirbanese.
And okay. Yeah, like it's actually Chibi, Chibi Hua. But you can say it however you want, Chibanese, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But like when they speak in Chibanese, and like it's if you don't understand Chibanese, it's super different than it. I mean, there's a lot of places it's the same as Mandarin, but it's like I've been learning Chibanese for the past 2 years, like off and on. But it's hard because there's no materials for it, and every time I go back to their hometown and listen to them speak, it's like, holy shit, there's so much I don't understand because it's so different. It's even hard in the Cantonese. Cantonese at least has like resources where you can do studying by yourself, but for Chibanese, it's like you have to actually be with them and talk to them because there's no resources.
Revert back in time to when you were a baby and insert yourself into Japanese society.
Yeah,
and then learn it, and then travel back through time to your future self and implant your memories into your adult form. There you go. That idea is patented. Cody Schlosser.
What? Shit! Why didn't I think about that before? I need to get right on that. I'm gonna put that on my sticky note for today. I'm gonna say time travel. That's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna time travel. Question mark! Exclamation!
Time traveling counts as traveling. We could add that into the session. We want to talk about time travel?
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, like what I was saying is with Chibanese, it's like if you don't understand it, then you listen to them. It sounds like you don't know if they're having a pleasant conversation or if they're like they're fucking like scolding the shit out of each other,
right.
Like cussing each other out and stuff. because it really, like, her dad, like, as soon as he opens his mouth, it just becomes, it's just all the same tone. It's like, it sounds like, it doesn't matter if he wants to have a pleasant conversation with you, or if he just wants to tell you to do something, or if he's cussing you out, it all sounds the same. It's all the same tone.
No change. Okay.
And when I'm saying tone, I'm like tone of voice, not like
not
tones
volume,
like in
like me.
Man. Not tones as in, like, the tones of Chinese where you have ma 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 ma,
Right, yeah.
But
I got
like
that.
the tone of voice, like and actually a lot of Chinese people have this problem. Like they're used to just like ordering people to do something, without like, I mean, I'm not saying all Chinese people are like this, but a lot of them, like, if you're telling a kid to do something, it's not like, oh, can you do this for me? Or can you, or like, do this, like they usually, it's like, do this right now, kind of like that tone. And it can, and Fan before was like that. Like, she would always be like, if I did something wrong, she would get really angry at me and like say, and like, do the, I don't know how to translate that kind of tone of voice in English, but it always sounded like she was ordering me to do stuff and whatnot. And I would tell her, like, you got to change your voice, or else, like, your tone of voice, or else, like, to whatever you speak to me, it's just like nails on a chalkboard, and it makes me not want to do it even more. And after a while, I slowly taught her how to change her voice, her tone of voice, in order for me to listen to her and other people to listen to her more. And it's the same problem with her dad and her brother and her sister-in-law. Like, they all have this problem. Like, they don't know how to change the tone of their voice in order to make people let people listen to them better. So like, her dad is especially this way, and they just fight so much because, like, they're always, it seems like they start at one level and then they try to keep upping the level,
just escalation,
and then it gets to this
and
point
over again.
And it got to the point where during the holiday, like, not even 2 days in, like, her sister-in-law got so angry that she just left.
Wow.
And for the entire Chinese New Year, she didn't even come back for the actual, like, New Year to eat with us. She was just like, yep, I'm leaving. And it's like, I don't want to deal with this. She got really angry, like, everyone just got angry at everyone else, and it was a big clusterfuck. And I was just caught in the middle of it, and I was just like, I'm going to play video games with Yang Yang.
Hollow Knight,
the kid,
yes.
Yang Yang is a kid. He liked Hollow Knight, but we played a lot of other ones. He really liked Mario Party.
Mario Party's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And but then I also got to go around Canton, Guangdong. We went to a couple different cities. We went to we stayed in Zhongshan. We went to Zhuhai to check out some places there. It wasn't that fun. And then we went to see some of our old classmates, which they were kind of cool. And it's really interesting with the language over there. Like, in China, like, you go anywhere, you can basically speak Mandarin with people,
and they'll at least grasp it.
Yeah. Older folks might have problems with it sometimes, but most of the time, everyone speaks Mandarin, But then each different place has their own language. But then Guangdong is a little different because, like, Guangdong, before their Mandarin, their Putonghua, and Putonghua literally means normal speak. Putong is normal. Hua is like speak. And their, like, Putonghua was Cantonese. So everyone in Guangdong, of course, speaks Mandarin, but they also all speak Cantonese, and also on top of that, they also have a home language, which is usually some sort of Hakka.
Interesting.
And so, like, wherever you go in Guangdong, a lot of times you can speak to people in Cantonese, and a lot of times, especially people in the villages, they're more comfortable speaking in Cantonese than they are in Mandarin, and it's very obvious because, like, I remember, and also in Guangdong, it's much different because, like, people are, and if you're going to other places and you try to learn other Chinese languages, like I remember when I was learning Minanhua, I would speak to people in Minanhua, and they'll instantly switch back to Mandarin and be like, "Why don't you just speak in Mandarin? It's so much easier." It's like, why do you want to learn our language? They were just like it always seemed like it was stupid for me to learn Minanhua. But when I go to it's like every time I speak to someone in Cantonese, it's always the same. They're like, they just go off in Cantonese. It's like off in the races, It's like, okay, well, you can speak Cantonese. I'll speak to you in Cantonese,
That's the same experience I had when I went to Japan in high school. They would be like, this is a foreigner. They would kind of start slow, and then I would say something relatively okay, and it was just like, okay, you can speak it. Like, it was immediate.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
like rapid fire, and I was like, nope, just kidding. I only know a little bit.
Yeah.
I got like a word out of that.
Yeah.
Like, you got to slow down.
I think Japan is like that too, because Japan is also a very isolated place, and they're also proud of the Japanese language,
yes.
And they should be, The Japanese is a super amazing language, in culture and the sound of it, all of it. Japanese is an amazing language. The same thing is with Cantonese. Cantonese has an amazing culture to it, and like it's like it was a lingua franca of Guangdong and still is for a long time, And the thing is, people are proud of Cantonese, but people aren't proud of other regional people aren't really proud of their own language. So even like when I speak to Fanfan's dad in Chibinese, he also just doesn't really, like in Mandarin, in Chinese, he calls it tu hua, and tu is like dirt, and hua, like I said, speak.
Yes,
it's
speak.
like
dirt
it's
speak.
like
interesting.
Yeah, it's like dirt speak, and they were just like, but when you're talking about Cantonese, people from Guangdong, they don't call their language Tuhua. They usually call it, they call it Baihua, like it's like white speak. But it's not really white
like
here. It's
pure.
Not really pure. Like it's more like, I don't know how to convey that meaning in English, but it's got this. It's like casual speak almost.
Okay.
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, they're really proud of Cantonese. Like every time I speak to someone in Cantonese from Guangdong, they really want to speak to me in Cantonese. Sometimes I remember when I could only speak a few sentences in the language. Like, there was someone from Hong Kong that I met in a tea house, and I told them I could speak a little bit, and I started speaking, and they were like, "Oh, why don't we sit down for 10 minutes and speak all in Cantonese?" I'm like, I can't do that. And it's like, just try it. Come on. Like, they would be like wanting me to speak,
That's really cool.
And that's why I love Cantonese. It's just, people are really proud of the language, and people want to speak it. And you hear it everywhere. And the thing is, I hear kids speaking it everywhere. That's something that you don't see in like Fujian and other places. People don't usually speak their local language to kids. They want to speak to them in Putonghua. But over in Guangdong, you go anywhere and the kids are speaking Cantonese.
Huh.
It's amazing. It really made me feel welcomed, like when people spoke to me in Cantonese. But that's the reason I don't want to learn Minanhua anymore, is because people just don't like, even people that are from the same village, if they meet each other outside,
they'll speak a Mandarin instead of Minanhua.
Yeah. And the thing, they just say a lot of times it feels wrong. to do that. Even Fang Fang, her ex-boss was from the same village. They literally live a few houses down from each other, and they speak to each other in Mandarin. But if you're in Guangdong, and that happens, if you're from Guangdong and that happens outside of Guangdong, you're going to be speaking Cantonese to each other. Like people it just feels, maybe it's because Guangdonghua is more like Cantonese is more like a lingua franca over there, so it feels okay to speak like that, But it's interesting, and like when speaking about traveling, that was one of my big goals going to Guangdong this time, was to get better at Cantonese and actually start using it in everyday things, like going to the grocery store and speaking to them. But it felt weird at first because because I think I was implanted with the thoughts of how people's attitude towards other Chinese languages, like Minanhua. It's like if you're in a restaurant, speaking Minanhua almost feels like a little uncivilized,
right? Like they'll look at you like you're like, why can't you just speak the formal language we have?
Yeah, almost like that, like it's kind of the same in America now. Like a lot of people, I think, get a little scared to speak Spanish or something in public because they might be afraid of how people would see them, Like, but it's much different for Cantonese,
Yeah,
and I know I'm talking. Mm-hmm.
I kind of had that the other day, actually. I was working with some foreign exchange students. I guess they're not foreign exchange students; they're just foreign students at SIUE, and they were asking for help, and I went down there, and then they were talking in their language, and then they were like, "Oh, sorry, we're talking our language. It's easier for us to talk in our native tongue." And I was like, if I ask you a question, I'm like speaking English. But if you're talking to each other, like I don't care if you're not speaking English. Like I definitely understand it's easier to speak like another language.
Yeah, see, even in here in China, like when I go into shops and stuff, like on the street, I'm okay with like helping Fan Fang in English and speaking to her in English for a little bit. But then if we're going to like a restaurant or if we're in a shop or something, I tell her we need to speak in Mandarin or else people are going to get really shy and like feel really uncomfortable around me,
Huh.
I mean, I think it's the same in any country. People get uncomfortable around people that speak a language.
Yeah, especially if you don't understand it, because you're like, what are they talking about? Like, your own.
And then the other.
So where your own like you project onto what they're saying, and like maybe they're talking about me or something. Maybe they're.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you're next to people and they're laughing, sometimes you feel like they're laughing about you. Yeah. Right?
Even when you've done nothing at all.
Yeah.
The spawn that
exactly.
You're just like, did they look at me though?
Yeah, exactly. So like, but then the other thing with like hearing non-native, other foreign languages in your own country is like sometimes you get if you don't know that language, you get scared. It's like, oh shit, like what am I supposed to do now? Like how are we supposed to communicate, And you get kind of like that's the thing that happens in China a lot. People get really, when they see me, like I'm obviously not Chinese, so like they automatically think like, oh, I have to speak to him in English, And the thing is, they get so caught up in that loop that when especially if I'm speaking English around them, they will get very nervous if their English is bad,
Right.
Like so I just I tell Fanfan every time we go into a shop or if we go into a restaurant, we're going to speak Mandarin or a language that they all speak there, So I don't speak English in cafes. Even like even if I'm with foreigners, if they can speak Chinese, like I tell them, like, let's speak Chinese in this cafe or something, because I want to make these people feel comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard, but you know, you learn tricks to make people more comfortable in their country. So like, yeah, like, yeah, it's happened a lot of times. Like, last time when we were in, like, we went to see a movie recently, and when we got into the movie theater, we realized, oh, we needed to buy 3D glasses at the counter. So Fanfan had me go and buy some 3D glasses so we can watch the movie. And when I got to the counter, the girl kind of just like kept looking at me wide-eyed, and like I was speaking to her in a perfect accent and everything, but she kind of still, I think in her mind, because I see when I see that kind of expression, I know what she's thinking in her mind. It's like, oh, she was getting nervous. Like every time the line went up one person, she was thinking in her mind, oh, I'm going to have to speak to this foreigner in English very soon, you know? And then once she got to me, like, she did not even expect that I would be speaking to her perfectly in Mandarin, you know?
Yep.
And she kind of like, all of a sudden it's like, what? You know, it's almost like she doesn't hear what I'm saying, you know? And like, so that's the thing. Like a lot of times when I'm around people, I have to do something passively to make them know that I understand everything they're going to be saying to me.
Right.
Know? Yeah. So like with traveling in any country, I think we have to kind of think about these kind of things. Like especially in countries that aren't used to, well, that have kind of this kind of racist view of things, you know, and not racism in like the strong sense like in America, but, you know, the thing I've told you about, like this functional racism where it's like you see someone that's foreign and you know that you're going to have to speak to them in another language or react to them in a different way, you know, which in America we don't really have as much. Like in China, it's like if you look foreign, it's like you speak English. That's pretty much, yeah. and sadly, like 90% of the time, it is like that, you know, because a lot of foreigners are really, really lazy. You know, they don't want to learn the local language. You know.
Well, right, and if you're only going to be there for like a week, like it's hard to justify learning a language and everything to be like, well,
I totally understand that.
But you should know a little bit.
I totally understand.
You should know enough to ask for some stuff.
I think you should know a little bit. But I don't think it's a requirement, because like if you're only going to stay there for a bit, then, you know, just enjoy yourself, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But like if you're going to live there.
Yes. If you're going to live there for any extended amount of time, you should get a grasp on the language. Like, be able to at least get a conversation going.
Yeah, you know, like I'm okay with like foreigners being kind of like choppy in the language. Like I just want foreigners to be able to speak at some sort of level and be continuing learning, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's important and it's respectful for to the country you're living in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like I think if you're going to be living in a country that's not your own, like you should be learning about and be like assimilating into the culture, you know? It's hard, yeah, but at the same time, like you moved to this country, so you need to respect that country, you know, and how the people live there, you know?
Yeah, you can't go to a country and be like, well, I speak this language, so you should help me by speaking that language. Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I understand, you know, with like, there's also the whole like refugee thing too, but, you know, this country is also like giving you refuge, you know? Mm-hmm. So you need to be respectful to the country, but it's hard to say because like cultural differences are actually really hard to
overcome. Yeah.
Yeah, like it really, like I remember the beginning, like how people saw hygiene over here in China is much different than America, and actually, like both sides have pros and cons. Like Americans sometimes use too much soap and stuff without cleaning the soap off properly, and over here, a lot of people don't actually feel the actual temperature of outside, and they just kind of assume in the wintertime, okay, winter equals cold. So if I just put, even though that right now,
isn't it like 70 degrees?
Like 80 degree. It's like 80 degrees out. I can just leave out this meat out for 2 days and it won't go bad. Like it's like they don't actually feel the actual temperature of outside,
They just assume because of the
season.
What the season is supposed to be.
Yeah. They don't actually feel the actual temperature a lot. And so there's that problem. But like with cultural differences, it's hard to overcome, and you probably felt them, a lot going to all these other countries, right?
Yeah, it's hard to I don't remember much of like culture struggles in when I was younger, like from when I was in Norway. But Australia was an interesting culture shift because their take on language is very different from ours. Like, we kind of have like a properness to our language. Like, there are times when you shouldn't swear. There are times when you want to be more respectful to another. From my experience, that doesn't exist in Australia. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Just like whatever comes out of your mouth, that's what you're saying today.
Which I really, that's what I really respect in Australian people is like they just kind of say it like it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And use a ton of slang. Slang, there's no reason for it to be what it means. Like fair dinkum, those words don't mean anything.
And
if any of my Australian friends are listening, I love it anyway. But
I love Australians, man. Like I wish I had some more Australian friends. I mean, you count as like half an Australian.
I was there for long enough to at least have a semi accent when I moved back to Hawaii. For like 6 months, I had an Australian accent.
Really?
Everybody liked talking to me.
Like if you went back to Australia, do you think like you would get your Australian accent back?
I don't know. I don't think I would. Honestly, maybe if I lived there for a while, but I don't think I would get it back. I think at this point I've gotten too much of the American. And I was also much younger
also
then.
Ross, right?
Yeah, Ross.
Like Ross from Game Grumps. Like right now his accent's more like American, but like he can get back into the Australian accent like really quickly.
Yeah.
Like right now, could you say some stuff in an Australian accent? Just start talking in an Australian accent.
I don't think I could, mate. It's not a switch for me. I gotta actually like be involved in the language. I don't remember most of like the dialect. Like I haven't talked to my Australian friends that much. Darren would have been the last one. No, Chloe was here. She was here over winter, I guess, or she was here at some point last year.
So, like, it might be kind of like my thing. It's like if I speak to a non-native speaker of Chinese, like, there's a lot of words that can't come up, and my brain almost wants to pull me into English, Huh. But then when I speak to a native speaker, all of a sudden, like, all these words come out. And it's the same thing with speaking to non-native speakers of English in English. Like, a lot of words can't come out, like a lot of slang and stuff. And the same thing also with any language. It's like if I speak to a non-native speaker, it's like my brain doesn't want me to speak, like almost wants to normalize my speech,
Right.
to kind of fit the my partner at the time. And I think it's probably the same thing with accent. Like right now I have an American accent, so you want to speak to me in an American accent, right? To kind of suit the conversation.
Yeah, kind of just to fit in.
Yeah. But so like besides like the whole language deal with Australia, was there any kind of like behavior that kind of gave you culture shock over there?
Not that I can remember off the top of my head.
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, they drive on the other side of the road.
Well, there's that. But I mean, like that's not because like there's certain. Yeah.
It was still very American to me, anyway. I got along with pretty much everybody. I didn't have anybody where I was like, that doesn't seem like something that I'm okay with. Like, that's not... Everything seemed very normal to me. And I don't know if that was just because I was younger, like if I didn't experience... Because I think the younger you are, the less culture shock you would have.
Because everything in the world already is strange and...
Yeah, and like, new.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Maybe...
It's interesting. You go ahead.
Maybe it's like the lack of protection. Because I remember I walked to school and would get attacked by birds, and people would be like, "It's fine, it's just a bird." And I was like, "This is a magpie that wants to kill me." It was a fear of mine. Like, maybe that scared me.
Maybe that's something like. Yeah, I never really thought of culture shock pertaining to kids, because maybe kids it doesn't affect them as much because they don't have like a rigid structure of how things should be.
Yeah, like everything's already weird.
Yeah, so like me asking about your experiences like might be irrelevant,
I'll say I had a culture shock coming back because Australian sex ed was very, I would say, pragmatic almost. It didn't have the like religious like overtone on it almost. It was like, this is how you have sex. This is what's safe. This is like whatever, everything you can do. Like I just 6th grade I learned all of it. All the sex. My mom will tell the story all the time that I came home from school and I sat down, my little 6th grade self, and I was like, "I learned how to have sex today, Mom." She was like, "What?" She's like, "Do you have any questions?" And I was like, "Nope." But
like,
then
I learned it all.
But then I had sex ed in like high school, and I was like, this is not like that helpful. Like I feel this isn't useful.
Actually, I never went through sex ed in America. I had to learn it, and this I think is really dangerous. Is like I learned from my friends.
Yeah, that is dangerous.
Like it was just like the talk on the roads. Like what was like Becky doing with Billy, And it's like, oh, did you hear that if you have sex on a dryer while it's going on, because it's vibrating her vagina, you can nut in her and you won't have a baby. It would be like shit like that.
Or like the hot tub theory, like, or it's not good.
Dude, that shit, man, that's what I really hate about America. It's like people they just don't want to listen to science,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's pretty much everywhere. But see, that's why I feel like I don't want to live in America anymore. Like I've been getting very pessimistic about America. And I don't necessarily also want to live in China either. China still has some problems too, but that's why I'm learning Swedish right now. I hope that one day I can go over to Scandinavia and see how it is, and if I like it there, I might move over there.
I know Norway is a pretty happy country. I think Sweden's pretty happy as well. I don't ever.
Yeah, they're all
like the crazy thing about the news is like I don't ever hear about those. Like
Yeah, because
it's just normal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like that, they're the happiest countries in the world. It's just like kind of everyone in the back of their mind acknowledges it, but they never think of it. It's like, why don't we be more like them? You know, like America. It's just like everything that's happening in America right now. I just that's why I kind of just want to give up on America. Like, I mean, of course I'm American, but does that necessarily oblige me? Like, am I obliged to stay in America? You know, like
Absolutely
I just want to find somewhere where
America is built on people not wanting to live where they started.
Well, you know, the thing is, I think people are still caught up in the American dream, but to me, like, the American dream is dead. Like, you can't necessarily go to America to start a new life. Like, I don't know. Like,
in the internet age, that doesn't happen anymore because, like,
actually,
everything
nowadays,
that's happening. Like, you could just be like, hey, I moved to America. It's like, okay, well, all the stuff from the other country still follows you because it's on the internet. Like,
if anything, like, I think there's there's a few new dreams. It's like, first of all, you know, like you said with the internet, like, because we have the internet, we can work wherever we want in the world now. There's a lot of jobs that are like that, right?
Yep.
So you can do the what is it called? The roamer or whatever. There's a word for it.
The nomad?
But you can, like, be the nomad, the digital nomad, you know, and you can find wherever you think is best suits you and just work there. And then there's the other thing is, like, there's a lot of developing countries now that you can make good money in, like China. But I've heard it's getting a little harder for foreigners to work in China. But
I'm sure they're pushing to have Chinese workers do jobs there instead of foreigners. That seems to be a common thread in most countries at the moment.
I think it's very obvious, like, the world is going through a second nationalist movement, you know?
Yeah. We're almost too connected.
Like, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And you know, in one sense, it's a good thing. In one sense, it's a bad thing. You know? Because it's good to have, like, a national identity, but it gets to a point where it's just too much, and you start doing stupid things because of trying to promote that national identity. You know,
it's good to be proud of your country. It's not good to think your country is better than every other country simply because it's your country.
I think, yeah. I think I mean, you can see that, you know, it all changed when the Fire Nation attacked, right? Yeah, so man. Like I think nationalism is good and bad, you know. So, like, I like that each country has its own identity, but at the same time, it can be kind of nasty if you start, like, bullying other countries and stuff, or, like, bullying people from other countries because they're not your country.
Yeah, you know? Whenever you take something to its extreme, it's terrible.
Yeah, but you know, like, let's see. Today, we were talking about traveling and family and holidays, but I feel like we got off a topic a lot, you know.
Well, it's about time we start wrapping up, so.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I feel like we got off a lot today, but you know, whatever.
We covered the topics we wanted to talk about. This was just us talking, all things considered. You had a lot. You had a big travel thing going on, so it's nice to talk about travel.
Yeah, you know, like, I don't know how we can really do this in the future. We'll figure something out. You know, we always say that.
Yep, and then one day we'll just have it figured out.
Yep. So I'll plug in my YouTube channel really quick. Well, actually, so first, like, if you enjoy what you listen to here today, subscribe to us on Spotify, Or follow our YouTube, or not our YouTube. We'll get a YouTube soon, but follow our Twitter.
I'm putting this one up on YouTube. That's a promise.
Okay, cool. And then, well, actually, I'll have to make the video first and then send it to you. And then, or I can just put it up on YouTube over here. That would cut out one part of it.
Either way works. Yeah. I'll put the, I'm not going to say that out loud. I'll tell you that later.
Okay. But yeah, so subscribe to us, and then I got a YouTube channel. You can check that out. It's Laz the Spaz 4 on YouTube. I do some videos on like learning languages and some random stuff. I'll do rants and stuff if you like what comes out of my mouth. And Cody, what else you got?
I just got this going on right now. I haven't been streaming or anything, so I'm not going to plug it, because if anybody went and followed it, I didn't stream for the last like month, so...
No.
They had a nice drought of content, so please like this stuff. Send us an email at acrosstheotherpond@gmail.com. You can message us on Twitter. Otherpondpod @otherpondpod is the Twitter handle.
And are we gonna? Do we have a Facebook page yet?
No, I guess I could make that.
Yeah, we need to get a Facebook page too. All right, well, that's pretty much what we got for today, and next week we'll be talking about other things.
Yep, we'll see you back in the pond next week.
Yep, and there'll be fishes swimming about. I just was saying things. All right, well, that's it for this week.
Yep. All right, I'm going to hit stop on my recording.
Me too.